Hi, thank you for tuning in to the Patricia Show. My name is Patricia. Please press subscribe, like, and then share this with someone that you feel it would help them in their life. Now we're going to talk about the spiritual stuff of things. Let's talk about God. Let's talk about light. And let's talk about love. Now, you've been taught that God is, well, I guess you've been taught that God is light and God is love. Now, has some of you ever wondered maybe some of the things that they teach in our society is not true about God? When I was a little girl, the churches were so filled with, people in the church trying to learn about God. And now it's not that way anymore. You go to church and there's a lot of empty pews. I had a guy that tell me the other day, well, when you go in church, you're only going to see a lot of old people now because the younger generation wasn't coming. I've talked to some people in the younger generation, and they said that they feel that the church is like a business, and they're telling a lot of lies that's not true, and they just want the truth. So if they're going to be, and then they say that the church is just begging for money all the time. And the preacher tell you that you should wait till you die to get your blessings. But he's not waiting until he dies to get his blessings. So they were telling me that something is seriously wrong with that picture. I used to be a person that really believed in the Bible. I mean, honey, every time a biblical picture would come on, I would be right there watching it. Would come on next year, I would be right there watching it like I hadn't ever seen it before. It could come on 10 years later, and I'd be right there watching it like I didn't watch it every year the 10 prior years. I would love to read the different Bible stories. And you couldn't tell me that they weren't true because I thought they were true. I remember one time a friend of mine said to me, those stories aren't true. It's just like they say, it's the greatest stories ever told. And I said, what do you mean by that they're not true? And he never answered me. He wouldn't answer me. And I kept saying, no, I never heard that they wasn't true. What are you talking about? He never answered me. Then years later, because that was like in the 80s. So this was like 2000 and something. Now, this is just the way I felt. Doesn't mean that's what actually happened. But what I'm getting ready to tell you is what I felt. I felt that a whole year, for 1 year, God was preparing me to tell me something. He knew it would be a devastating letdown for me. So it's like for a whole year, I could look back over the whole year and see that he was preparing to tell me something. It was that following year that statement came up again, not from my friend, because that friend was long out of my life. I don't remember what it was I was reading, and again it came up, the Bible stories weren't true. I remember the guy had said that a long time ago, my friend, but never explains what. This time I was determined to find out what does that mean? I remember saying to God, please tell me, show me if this is true or not. Went through a lot of researching, found a lot of secret documents that people, that researchers back in the 1800s and way before had found and came into some information. I just came into a lot of information that stated that the Bible stories wasn't true. I was devastated. Absolutely devastated. I'm not the type of person, like, if I find out something really isn't true, I'm not the type of person that's going to hold on to it even though it ain't true. You know what I mean? I want to know what the truth is. That's what I want to know. So I'm not going to cover up anything trying to hide the truth. I want to know the truth. When a lot of things just happened. I realized that these were stories, that the churches were set up like as a business. They were collecting the money. The preachers would tell you one thing, like, you shouldn't get your blessings here on earth. Wait till you die and get them. But they were getting their money because they were taking your money, which was put into their pockets, which was they were able to get expensive shoes and expensive suits and Lear jets and things like that. Prior to that, I think it was in the 70s, may have been, or maybe not the 70s, maybe the early 80s. I met this lady from Louisiana, and she had given this dinners for me, down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I went down there, had dinner. It was a lot of different preachers and things there. I just really was shocked. I mean, they were giving these revivals, which I had never heard of. So it was giving these revivals, and then people in their entourage, and there that was with them were giving. Because I remember one of the secretaries had stood up for $100 to give $100 to this preacher. But when we got in the car to go back to Baton Rouge, because we was kind of on the outskirts of Louisiana, these revivals, I seen him give her money back. And I was like, what's going on? She gave that. Why would you give her money back? And they said to me at the dinner, when I had the dinner, the preacher says, oh, we'll explain that later. Well, one lady said, well, no, she just stands up to motivate the people. Because if she stands up to motivate the people will give more money. And then when we went to dinner that night, all of the preachers were basically saying the same thing. That they give people in their entourage maybe $100 or give them $200 or whatever, and they stand up, offer that in service, but it's not anything wrong they're doing. They said to me, they're motivating the public to give more money. Right? I did not think that was right. By no way, shape, form, I did not think that was right. And so in the car, they were giving back to people money that had stood up for them, their entourage, the people who had stood up for them, to give them a donation. They were giving all of their money back. That was my first look at how the preachers were deceiving the people. So when the information came about the Bible, that actually came up. A lot of different stuff came up because they were Diane Sawyer, a news reporter. I know you all remember her from, I think she was on it wasn't 2020. Prime Time is what the name of her show was. She had one of these preachers under investigation. And one of these preachers, I can't think of his name, Popenoff, I think his name was. And his friend had said that Popenoff had became a preacher because he said that was the easiest way to get rich. And this Diane Sawyer had this on her show. There's a friend on the show when she was investigating this preacher and all the stuff, he was getting the money and basically, living a high life from it. And I have heard preachers myself through these various dinners say that that's the quickest way to become a millionaire was, being a preacher. So some of the ministers I've had conversation with, they would say, well, they knew that these stories in the Bible weren't true. Some of them even went back to show me how the stories are repetitive throughout history, not only in like the English version, but in other nationalities too. They had would tell the same stories, but maybe use different characters' names and things like that. So anyway, for a whole year, and I came across some secret documents, and the whole year, that year, I just really, when I felt the year before, I felt that God was preparing me for this, because I think I really took it hard just to know that these stories weren't true in the Bible. I mean, I'm not a person who go around quoting the Bible and stuff like that, but I did used to always give these stories, like if I would be counseling someone spiritually, I would always say, well, look at Job and how he had the faith, and you have to have the faith. You know what I mean? You're using those stories to make an example as you're speaking. By no ways, I was not a minister. I was just a spiritual counselor. But it still devastated me. And then the older I got, the more I were seeing, up until today's time, that the people were being robbed, because not only was some of the stories in the Bible weren't real, but there was one time in our history anybody could go and write anything in the stories. I used to watch the History Channel and things like that, and it was showing how different people had went and just wrote different things in the Bible. And then I never believed that the Jewish people were God's chosen people. That just didn't make sense to me. Why would God, who loves all his children, choose one race over another? Because God doesn't deal with you as a race of people. God deals with you as spirits, because that's what you truly are. You just come to earth temporarily to play out this play, is what I call it. And then you go back to spirit world and prepare for your next lifetime. And you're doing continue your lifetimes until you're off the wheel of reincarnation. So God is not a physical being. So it doesn't care about what your physical race. So why would it say the Jewish people are my people? I just knew that wasn't enough. I knew that wasn't true. God had revealed enough knowledge to me for me to know that, yet this lie was being perpetrated. And I knew that a lot of people, because I used to do a lot of surveys all the time. Oh no, let me just do a survey for this. Like I did a survey on what people, how was God? Like, who was God, or where was God? And people who were 40 and 50 and 60 years old would tell me like God was a super being, or God could turn into a physical person or a spiritual person. I mean, it just was, you could just see how people had no knowledge of God at all. They were just going by what the church was teaching them, but they had no real knowledge. So they had no intelligent answers to give me when I would do these different surveys to ask them questions about God. And it just was, first I used to feel sorry for people, because I would think like, hey, our society they're teaching people lies, and they're not teaching people the truth. And then I began to not feel sorry for people, because I felt like, just like I was praying and asking God to show me and researching, you could do the same thing. You could research some of this stuff is in plain sight. And so all you have to do is pick it up and read it and learn it and see it for your, get the knowledge for yourself. It's not dig way buried in a cave somewhere that you got to go pick it out. No, it's not. So I thought, if I can pray and ask God to lead me and guide me to the truth, and then I get the truth, you could do the same thing. But people don't, because they're lazy, because you want somebody to do the thinking for you, or you want somebody to do let them teach, let them get the teaching and then teach you. Because you don't take the position of you are a powerful person, and you don't need anybody to speak to God for you. You can speak to God for yourself. No, you don't take that stance. Okay, so I have to end this one, and then I'll make a part 2. Thank you for tuning in to The Patricia Show. Have a wonderful day, and this is the end of part 1.